Industrial facilities are made up of many process systems that work together to make finished products. These process systems can be very complex, with miles of piping and hundreds of system components. Learning how the process systems in a facility are laid out and how they operate can be a big job, but there are some tools available to make it easier. One of the best tools is a diagram. Industrial facilities are made up of many process systems that work together to make finished products. These process systems can be very complex, with miles of piping and hundreds of system components. Learning how the process systems in a facility are laid out and how they operate can be a big job, but there are some tools available to make it easier. One of the best tools is a diagram. One of the best ways to become familiar with a system is to examine a flow diagram of the system. Flow diagrams show the equipment and the flow paths of materials in a system. This information is helpful when you need to perform valve lineups or reroute flow in a system. This is a flow diagram of a crude oil desalter system. This system contains components that work together to remove salt and other impurities from crude oil. We'll use the diagram as we trace the flow path of the oil through the system. The symbols on the diagram can be compared to the actual equipment in the plant. But before we start tracing a system or locating equipment in the plant, it's a good idea to use the diagram to get the big picture of the system. One way to do this is to look at the diagram and find the names of the flows or streams that are inputs to the system and the names of the flows that leave the system as outputs. Inputs or feeds are indicated by arrows that point in the direction of the flows through the system. Outputs or products are indicated by arrows that point away from the system. The major input to this system is crude oil from a pipeline. The diagram also shows that hot liquid from distillation tower F102 enters the system. This is a flow diagram of a crude oil desalter system. It shows the flow paths of material as well as the types of equipment in the system. The liquid provides heat input to the system. The diagram also shows that the system has two other inputs, a chemical called a demulsifier and water. The major output of the system is desalted crude. The diagram shows that it's fed to a refining system. There's also a line on the diagram that is labeled salt water to waste processing. This line represents the output stream containing the salt and other impurities that are removed from the crude. Now that we've determined what comes into the system and what goes out, we're ready to look at the equipment that makes up the system. By looking at the diagram, we see that this system includes pumps, control valves, heat exchangers, and a vessel called a desalter. Using the diagram as a guide, we can locate the equipment in a plant by following the path that the oil takes through the desalter system. We'll start locating equipment in the plant where the crude oil enters the system, here at pump P101.